She wasn't a goddess. She wasn't a witch. She was something far more terrifying to the ancient world. She was right. Before there were newspapers, before there were satellites, before there were any of the information systems we rely on today, there were women who could see the future. The Romans called them Sibyls. Not one woman, not a title, a lineage of prophetic women scattered across the ancient Mediterranean, who operated for centuries, some say millennia, as oracles and advisors. They were the ultimate authority on what Rome should do when disaster loomed. The most famous writer on this, Varro, counted 10 of them. 10 Sibyls, each assigned to a different region: Persia, Libya, Delphi, Erythrae, Samos, Cumae, the Hellespont, Phrygia, Tiber, and Cumae again. But it's the Italian one, the Cumaean Sibyl, who shook the foundations of an entire civilization. The story of the Sibylline Books almost sounds like myth, except Roman historians recorded it as fact. An old woman arrived at the court of Tarquinius Superbus, the last king of Rome. She carried 9 books. She said these books contained the destiny of Rome. Her price? Enormous. Unthinkable. The king laughed. She left. She came back. Now she had only 6 books. Same price. He laughed again. She left and burned 3 more. When she returned the 3rd time holding just 3 books, still demanding the original price, something in the king broke. He paid every coin for those 3 books. Those 3 books, the Sibylline Books, would be Rome's most closely guarded state secret for over 500 years. They were stored in a stone chest beneath the Temple of Jupiter on the Capitoline Hill. They could only be consulted by a special college of priests, the Quindecimviri, and only when the Senate voted to open them. Plague, military catastrophe, supernatural omens so disturbing that no one knew what to do. They were not a magic spell. They were instructions. How to appease the gods. Which ritual, which god, which sacrifice. The books told Rome how to survive. If you really want to understand the Sibyls, you need to go to Cumae, a coastal city in Campania, modern-day southern Italy, where the most powerful Sibyl lived inside a cave carved into volcanic rock. Virgil described her in the Aeneid. When visitors arrived, the cave would roar. Her face would change. Her hair would stand up. 100 mouths, 100 voices all crying out at once. And then from the chaos prophecy. But here is the tragedy that haunts every account of the Cumaean Sibyl. Apollo loved her. He offered her anything. She scooped up a handful of sand and said, "Grant me as many years of life as there are grains here." Apollo agreed. But she forgot to ask for eternal youth. So she lived, and aged, and shrank, until she was so small she fit inside a jar. Children would ask her, "Sibyl, what do you want?" And she would answer, "I want to die." This is what the ancient world believed prophecy cast. The knowledge of the future was a curse you carried alone. Here's where it gets genuinely astonishing, because the cave is real. In 1932, Italian archaeologist Amedeo Maiuri excavated at Cumae and found exactly what Virgil described. A trapezoidal tunnel over 130 meters long cut through volcanic tufa rock. The Sibyls represent something very real. Priestesses who held genuine institutional power. The Senate of Rome literally would not make major decisions without consulting their writings. The Sibylline Books were eventually destroyed. In 83 BC, the Temple of Jupiter burned and took them with it. The Romans spent decades trying to reconstruct them, sending delegations across the Mediterranean to collect fragments. They were never the same. Later, when Christianity became the dominant religion, the church absorbed them. The Cumaean Sibyl was reinterpreted as having prophesied the coming of Christ. Michelangelo painted 5 Sibyls on the Sistine Chapel ceiling, placing them as equals among the Hebrew prophets. They were records of women who shaped the present for over 1,000 years with nothing but words written in books. Ancient history is full of women whose power was erased or folded into legend, and every single one of them is worth finding again. Subscribe for more stories. History didn't start with the people you were taught about in school.